Okay, so in this lecture today, we'll be dealing with some of the main important issues in the chapter Verbs and Verb Phrases in a University Grammar of English by Randolph Quirk and Sydney Greenbaum. This chapter is divided into three parts. In the first part, we have a discussion on verb and verb phrases. Thereafter, we have a very small part of the chapter in which the terms auxiliary verbs and uh, the concepts of tense, mood, and aspect are discussed. And in the last part of the chapter, there is some discussion on the use of modal auxiliaries. So let us systematically try and understand the various issues related to verbs and verb phrases. Now, basically, verbs are categorized as lexical verbs and as auxiliary verbs. Okay. So the first part of this chapter deals with the definition and use of lexical verbs and auxiliary verbs. Okay. There is a discussion on the forms of the forms and uses of the verbs, and after that there is a, a section which deals with the use of irregular verbs. So one by one, we will take up all these issues and points related to verbs and verbs phrases. So as I said, the basic classification in verbs is related with lexical verbs and auxiliary verbs. Lexical verbs are those verbs which denote action, uh, in a very general sense. So you have such words as talk, eat, write, think, make, paint, construct, swim, run. Okay, the various kinds of actions that we perform in our daily life. The words which denote these actions, okay, are called lexical verbs. These verbs in journal language are also known as action verbs. Okay. As far as the definition of verbs is concerned, verbs are those words which tell us about the state or the action, the state of a particular thing or the action performed by a particular person or object. So let me reiterate for the last time that verbs denote actions. Lexical verbs is a major category of verbs which deal with the common actions performed by all of us. The second important thing about lexical verbs is that this group is an open category or open class, by which we mean that new words are added to there are thousands and lakhs of lexical verbs which we use every day. Okay, let me give you some more examples such as grow, drive, discuss, uh, admit, allege. Okay. So there is uh, a large range of these words. Okay. The list is almost endless. Okay. Any action that we perform and the word that denotes that action is a lexical verb. So this is the first classification in verbs and verb phrases. The second category of verbs is auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs in normal language are also known as helping verbs. Uh, I would like one of you to please confirm that my voice is audible. Just take a second and confirm so that I can progress.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's so.
Yes, sir.
Please switch off your microphones. If someone is unable to hear me, please check your devices because from my side, the voice is being delivered quite fine and everyone is able to hear me. Uh, if one of you cannot hear me, please check your device properly. So the auxiliary verbs, as I said, are also called helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs are divided into primary auxiliaries, do, have, be, and modal auxiliaries, can, may, shall, will, could, might, should, would, must, ought to, used to, need, and dare. So primary auxiliaries are helping verbs which help in the formation of various tenses. Okay? We all know that do is used in present tense and it is also used to make negative sentences. Have, has, had are used to make perfect sentences, and the various forms of be like is, am, are, was, were, been are also used in present, past, and perfect sentences. Thereafter, we have modal auxiliaries. Modal auxiliaries have also have a very specific use because they indicate the mood of the verb. They add to the meaning of the verb and also extend the possibility of saying something. So all the various auxiliaries you can see on your screen, okay, are linked with some specific moods and meanings, which I will be discussing later on. The next slide, as the title tells you, is related with the 5 forms, okay, in which verbs can occur. Verbs can occur in 5 forms. The base form, which is the form which you find in the dictionaries. Okay. S form, when you add S or ES to the base form. Past form, generally formed with the help of ED. Then ing form, when we add ing to the verb. And then another form, which is also called past participle form, described in this slide as ed form. So basically, past form and ed form have are identical, but they have different uses. We will discuss this as we move on. So lexical verbs. Now, the basic classification is lexical and auxiliary verbs. Now we are discussing lexical, the various classifications of lexical verbs. Lexical verbs are of 2 types, regular lexical verbs and irregular lexical verbs. We will deal with regular and irregular lexical verbs now. So, what are regular lexical verbs? In layman's language, regular lexical verbs are those verbs in the case of which we can predict all the forms by looking at the base form. Okay? The various verbal forms are formed in a regular way by adding s, by adding ed, by adding ing. So if you know the base form, you can easily say what the s form would be, what the past form would be, what the past participle form would be. So Regular lexical verbs have the same ed inflection for both past and ed. So this is the basic thing. Okay, in regular lexical verbs, both the past form and the past participle form are formed with the use of the inflection ed at the end of the word. Compared to this, or contrary to this, irregular lexical verbs are those verbs where the past and the participle form of the verb, okay, uh, forms vary to a great extent and in different ways. Okay, the past form and the past participle forms are not formed with the use of the inflection ed only, but are formed in several different ways. As the examples given on this slide make it clear, you have verbs like put, where all the three forms, the base form, the past form, and the past participle form are the same. You have uh, verbs like break, where base form is break, past form is broke, and the past participle form is broken. Then you have verbs like show, where the base form is show, past form is showed, and the past participle form is shown. So, as the next few slides will make it clear to you, there is a lot of variety in which irregular lexical verbal forms related to the past and past participle are formed. Now, before we come to this, let us look at the five functions of the five forms. We saw in one of the slides above that verbs can occur in five forms. Now, what are the functions of these five forms? The base form is used in present tenses, except for the third person. So, for a normal sentence, okay, I swim every day. So you use the base form swim. Okay, but with he and she in the singular, third person, we do not use the base form. Okay, there we say he swims or she swims every day. So the S form is used with third person singular again in the present tense. So base form and S form are used for the present tense. Past form, okay, whether with ed or in the case of irregular lexical verbs, is used for past time in the past tense. Ing form is used in continuous tenses and in participle clauses. So in present continuous tense, in past continuous tense, okay, I am planning a visit. Okay, you have ing form. He was planning a visit. You have ing form. And in participle, in present participle clauses, for instance, arriving early, I saw the gate closed. Here, arriving early is a participle clause where the ing form is used, but without being placed in a tense. Ed form or the past participle form is used in perfect tenses and in passive voice. So when we say, I have finished my work, okay, we are using the third past participle form of the verb. Similarly, in passive voice, okay, the work was finished by me. Again, we use the past participle form. So there is a slide. I will not spend too much time on this. It just tells you or tries to tell you that the pronunciation of ed inflection in regular lexical verbs, okay, is basically, we can pronounce them in three ways. We can pronounce the ed inflection as the, and as it. Okay, with when the word ends with a voiceless sound, as in lock. Okay, the ed inflection is pronounced as locked. When it ends with a voiced sound, as in bag, the ed inflection is pronounced as as in bagged. But if it ends with a word like the, okay, we pronounce the ed inflection as id, as in cheated. So moving ahead, irregular verbs are, as I said, or possess a lot of variety when it comes to the formation of the past form and the past participle form. The next few slides try to show you how irregular verbs, or how in irregular verbs the past and the ed forms are formed. So you can see that there is a lot of variety in this. In the first slide, we can see that these irregular verbs have the same past and ed forms, obviously without ed. So deal, dealt, keep, kept, leave, left. So what is special about these is that the base form, okay, and the past form and the past participle form, okay, are different from one another. However, the past participle and the past form are, or occur in the same way, are formed in the same way. Same word is used for the past and the past participle. This is the first type of irregular verbs. Second, in these irregular lexical verbs, okay, we have the same base past form and the same participle form. So you can see that the same form is used for all the three, okay, all the three uses. Base form is cost, past form is cost, and the past participle form is also cost. Same with cut, slit. Let's come to the next one. Now, what happens here is that all three are different: base form, past participle form. They are all different. Okay, but there are two past participle forms instead of one. Okay, one which is formed in the regular way with ed, and the second one which is formed with the use of n. So you have sewed, past participle. You have two options. You can either say sewed or you can say sewn. Show, showed. Then again, you can either say showed or you can say shown. The next set of irregular lexical verbs have identical past and ed forms. Okay, bleed, bled, feed, fed, dig, dug, and you will kindly notice that the vowel sound in the base form and in the participle and past forms changes. Okay. There is a slight change, okay, in the vowel sound. Okay, so there is a modification in the base form of the verb. So with this, we come to the next set of words, next set of irregular lexical verbs. Okay. Now these the irregular lexical verbs are characterized by the property that past and ed forms have different vowels. See, begin is the base form, began, begun. Past form is began, and the past participle form is begun. Same applies to the rest of the words. Drink, drank, drunk, ring, rang, rung. Okay, I think I missed one. Let us look at this also. Here, irregular lexical verbs with different past and participle forms. So none of the three is the same. You have break, broke, broken. So the third form, the third past participle form, as you can see, is formed with the use of n or en. So there is a long list of such words where base form differs from the past form, and the past participle form is formed with the help of either N or EN. So this brings us to the end of our discussion on irregular lexical verbs. And now we come to the next issue in this sentence, in this chapter, which is related with the use of auxiliaries, helping verbs. Okay. We saw in the beginning of this lecture that verbs are first and foremost divided into lexical and auxiliary verbs, and then regular lexical verbs and irregular lexical verbs. Now we have seen regular and irregular lexical verbs. Let us look at the auxiliaries. So as discussed in the first slide, auxiliaries are classified into primary auxiliaries, do, does. Okay, primary auxiliary do, which has the following forms: do, does for present tense, did for the past tense. Please also note that done is not an auxiliary. Okay, it is never used as an auxiliary or helping verb. It is always used as a main verb. The next auxiliary verb is have. It has 5 forms: base form have, S form has, past form had, ing form having, and ed form had. Now had again is not a pure auxiliary. Okay. So 5 forms of had are given here. Okay. Then the third primary auxiliary, be. It also has 5 forms: the base form be, present form am, is, and are, past form was and were, ing form being, and ed form will. Okay. So these are the primary auxiliaries. Okay. As I said, they help in the formation of different different tenses, present and past. Now, let us look at the list of the main modal auxiliaries. You are all familiar with them. We will discuss them when we come to the related slides. Okay, just have a look, and we will be discussing the use of all these modal auxiliaries when we come to the related slides. Now, there is in this chapter a very important distinction drawn between finite and non-finite verbal phrases. Now, what is the difference between finite verbal phrases and non-finite verbal phrases? There are 2 or 3 differences. One, finite verbs have tense distinction. Okay, the verbs which are placed in one of the present or past tenses are known as finite verb phrases. Okay, they are always part of a properly constructed clause, and they always adhere to the number and person agreement with the subject. These are the examples of finite verb phrases. He reads the paper every morning. So you see, reads agrees with the third person subject, he. They read the paper every morning. Here again, there is an agreement. Okay. The verb read is part of a fully constructed sentence or clause, okay, which has been placed in present tense. On the other hand, non-finite verb phrases do not have any tense distinction. They are not part of a finite clause. They do not show number and person agreement. So normally, okay, to infinitive and present participles, past participles, okay, they are examples of non-finite verbal phrases. The main thing is that these verb phrases do not or are not placed in a proper tense. For instance, he likes to swim. Now, to swim is a non-finite verb phrase. As you can see, it has not been placed in a proper tense. Similarly, I saw him working. Working again, when used alone without any helping verb, is a non-finite clause. Okay? So you must be aware of the difference between finite and non-finite verb phrases. This may be asked as a short answer type question also. After that, we have three very important concepts: the concept of tense, the concept of aspect, and the concept of mood. Now, let us look at all the three. Tense is a universal non-linguistic concept with three dimensions. The use of tense is linked with the correspondence between the form of the verb and time. So, you know, tense is a concept which relates to time. Whenever we talk about something, we have to relate the action or the state to either present or past or future tense. So, the correspondence between the form of the verb and time. Okay, we use different verb forms for different times. Okay, we have so many different tenses, okay, which we use in order to provide information about the time of the action. So this in grammar is known as tense. The second concept is the concept of aspect. Aspect and tense are overlapping concepts. Okay, they cannot be held as completely distinct. Okay? Aspect, as far as the definition goes, is the manner in which verbal action is experienced or regarded as either complete or in progress. So, aspect is partly related with time, but mainly it is related with whether we are presenting the action as complete, which has taken place in the past, or we are presenting the action as an action in progress. Okay? It is continuing. So, placing the action in the progressive tense, in saying that I have completed my work. Okay, this is both a question of tense and aspect. Okay, when we say I have completed my work, we are writing the sentence in present perfect tense. Okay, the tense is the tense is present, but the aspect is that of complete action, perfect. The last concept is the concept of mood. As I said in the beginning, mood as a concept is related with, in English language, is closely connected with the use of modal auxiliaries. So we have various modal auxiliaries which convey or which are linked with different moods. Okay. Examples of all these are there in the chapter. Okay. So you have modal auxiliaries like can and could, which are used for ability, permission, theoretical possibility. Okay, and if you read your chapter, there are plenty of examples for all these uses for ability, permission, theoretical. So please read the examples carefully and select good examples to accompany your answers. So these modal auxiliaries are used for different meanings related with the mood of the sentence. So you have modal auxiliary can and could, and shall and should, which is used for obligation. Okay? Contingent use, uh, like should I be late, please do not wait for me. So this is good. Obligation, we should always respect our elders. Okay? Then we have common modal auxiliaries like will and would, which are related with the future, prediction, okay, characteristic, activity. I would always, go for walks. So all these are described. The examples of all these are there in the chapter. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of our discussion on this chapter number 3 on verbs and verb phrases.